Well, hello and welcome to this Christmas Eve edition, episode 153 of the Adoption Fostering Podcast with me, Scott Casson-Rennie himself.
Ho, 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 Santa's little helper. Yeah, Alcoats, whatever.
Yeah,
Christmas has crept up on me this year.
Has it really?
Yeah. I mean, why do you say that? Why do you stroke your chin and ponder?
I was just wondering if it's crept up or not. Like, I don't know. Why has it crept up on you?
I don't know. It just feels like I've been working, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's Christmas on Sunday, and really badly planned because normally we have a Christmas edition. This isn't a Christmas edition. They're not even going to pretend. We don't. I'm not bothered.
No, we haven't got Christmas jumpers or beard baubles or anything like that on, have we?
No.
No.
But we are going to have an end of the year kind of roundup, aren't we? We're going to have a review of the year. So something.
Well, we're kind of. Yeah, and we're kind of changed it up a little bit this year as well, haven't we? So we've had the Queen's speech for the last 5 years, and obviously, God rest her soul, she passed away. And whilst King's speech, well, yeah, I know, just a little bit. The King's speech might be a little bit too soon, and also, do you know what? Do you just move and change and keep on?
Absolutely.
So let's do that and see what happens.
Yes, tradition is the living faith of the dead.
Mm-hmm.
And the dead faith of the living. Anyway, so we thought we'd do a little bit of a news roundup because lots and lots of interesting things have been going on, lots of news bits that we've not managed to catch up with, and some interesting thoughts. And I feel like this has been a really unusual year. I think there's lots of.
I think that's the biggest understatement of the century. But yeah, go on.
Spent
Sorry,
I'm in a coma.
Oh dear.
Yeah. But I think it'd be good we'll catch up with that sort of next year. The next episode, won't we? We'll sort of review that. I really like to unpick that. But we'll get our better halves on to do that and help us along. And maybe
don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody.
Okay, it's a secret. And
no, we're just not telling anybody, so then they don't listen. So it's all good. Shh.
That's fair enough. We don't want to build their role because they are very they're very precious individuals. But I've got a few news items. I thought it would be good to reflect on Helen Hayes. But before we do that, I just thought, quick news item. I'm gonna throw you some topics, and I want your hot takes. Like that's what they do, isn't it? Hot takes. Scott's hot takes. We should start a feature. Scott's hot takes.
Oh yeah, that'd be quite good, wouldn't it?
Scott's hot takes. I throw you a subject, you catch it, throw it back at me. Right? Okay. Here, first one. St. Francis Children's Society has gone into administration. Scott's hot takes.
Yes, Scott's hot takes. Well, I was actually really shocked to see that because there were a number of reasons, really, and specifically because I'd done a little bit of work with them. A couple of years ago, I was planning on becoming one of their trustees.
Did you tell them that, or were you just planning?
No, I just turned up and said, "Hi, I want to be a trustee." I did it. Did everything, did my DBS and the whole jing bang, and it just didn't work in terms of dates and what have you. In terms of their meeting dates, they clashed. I think it was actually, yes, it was. It was a year that we moved to Ireland. So for me to go to their meetings, because bear in mind things were always face to face then, weren't they? We didn't do the Zoom thing back then.
Back in the day,
And I couldn't make the meeting dates because generally on a Monday I wouldn't have been available. So anyway, but that didn't happen. But what was really interesting, I did go to, I assume as I've got in administration, I'm all right to say what I need to say, but I visited their offices and what have you, and got some background on their funding model and, all that sort of stuff, and very much, previously funded by the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
And obviously when the law changed to allow same-sex couples, they were quite quick to adjust to that. But it could no longer be part of the Catholic Church.
Well, some Catholics like they just shut the doors. Oh, so that's interesting.
Yeah. So and from what I remember, they had some property and stuff that and was was there if it needed, some assets and what have you. But yeah. So, but I think
Mm.
mainly really feel sorry for the families that,
Yeah.
will no longer get the support that they were promised when they became families. And
Yeah.
yes, obviously feel sorry for the people that worked there, but they can go on and do other things, even if it's, maybe takes them a couple of months. But for the families, that's the biggest issue.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I mean, it's interesting because I
such
think
another shame.
it is a shame. I don't think this will be the last. I don't know
No.
anything. I've got no inside information other than I do have someone who goes to meetings at high-powered meetings and he messages me. Well, a bit odd, really. Secretly and says, "We talked about this. You might want to talk about this on your podcast." It's all very secret squirrel. Do you know that people email me all the time with information and go, "You might want to talk about this."
Yeah, well,
Wink,
but
wink.
you are a bit of a little squirrel stroke snitch. So that's probably
I was trying to build my role into something glamorous and interesting and windswept and mysterious. But I'm just a
but
grass.
you're always on the lookout for the next bit of news, aren't you? That is your thing. You like being in the know, and I can guess. I guess a lot of your contacts generally, but sometimes I miss a few. But yeah.
It's
Anyway,
a fine
go
line
on.
between contact and stalking them, isn't it? It's if you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, our DFE contact says that all the time.
So did the judge the restraining order. So what they said to me was really interesting. They said there isn't a protocol for people who are sort of going through the process. So you might have got your stage 1 done in relation to adoption assessment. You might be halfway through your stage 2. So you've got this huge. You've invested maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 months in it, and then all of a sudden the agency closes, and there is no sort of accepted or understood or kind of agreed protocol for then transferring that to another agency, because people wouldn't maybe want to do that. I'd want to do that. I wouldn't want to start from scratch again. Or those families that are approved, and then they're sort of sitting on the books. What do they do? Because they're literally they are approved adoptive parents. Who's going to pick them up? Who's going to, from my point of view, I've never been in, let me think, if I've been in that situation, no, you don't want to pick up other people's assessment because you just,
well, this is the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, no one likes finishing off other people's work. And then the whole, like you said, about the whole thing about adoption support, so maybe does it just default to the RAA that you're living in? I don't know.
Well, let's think, because somebody should have to pick it up from, statutory wise, I would imagine. I mean, St. Francis had a really good working relationship, and I can't remember who's Annie Sharkey, the CEO of. You remember we had Anna Sharkey on me many moons ago talking about
adoption focus.
Yeah, so they had a really good working relationship and some partnership work with them as well. So, but I think they're in completely different geographical areas because adoption focuses in the Midlands, isn't it? And obviously St. Francis was in Milton Keynes. And of course, Adoption Plus is in Milton Keynes, so I don't know if maybe they've picked up some stuff as well. I don't know. Yeah. So,
but
if anybody knows, if anybody wants to become a snout, then
fax me a memo. Leave a message in a milk bottle at the end of the lane, and I'll pick it up.
Just let us know what lane it is. For goodness sake.
Yeah, that would help. Yeah,
that would help. Yeah,
but I think it's a really. I think next year we will see 2, 3 more. And that's not to fearmonger, but that's just the financial sort of cash flow model that they have. It looks pretty difficult, doesn't it?
Well, you think back to after adoption, when after adoption went into what's it called, administration. It was clear from looking at it afterwards that the number of placements that they had gone down a lot, and placement income is really what these organizations depend on. I mean, most of them are charities, so they fundraise and stuff like that. But unless they've got a really lovely philanthropist who donates quite a lot of money to them, then fundraising is, it's not, it's not a large amount every month as an income, is it? But it must be hard if you're not having the income coming from placements, which that's was the biggest. That had the biggest impact on after adoption,
Yeah.
from what I remember.
Yeah, if you place a sibling group of 2, you're talking like 70 grand, aren't you? Which is 2 people's wages.
Yeah. So it does beg the question about the regional adoption agency process and how that's worked for the longer term for voluntary agencies. Because if they're placing more children within the agencies, then they're obviously not looking outside. I'm not saying that's the whole reason.
Yeah.
But that's maybe one of the reasons, isn't it?
But that sort of dovetails wonderfully into sort of what another thing that I was going to pick up, which was the CVA, which is the Consortium of Voluntary Adoption Agencies, commissioned a piece of research by the Sonnet. I can't remember the name of the people. That's really embarrassing. But anyway, they commissioned some, I say in inverted commas, independent research that said adoption's great. 4.2 billion savings was made through improvements to children's health, education, and prospects after they were adopted. Saves councils 3.6 billion, and the wider economy and in the wider economy saves 341 and 34 million for the NHS. At least this is really brutal, right? So at least 1.3 million pounds worth of value is created. I don't know what value means. Created for every child adopted, claims the research, which was based on 3,359 children's outcomes. I don't know. I just feel like that is not the argument we're having about adoption. You pulling a face there. Is that why
I'm pulling the face because it makes it just sound like it? I'm pulling the face because it just lands into the hands of people that say this money-making sector.
Yeah.
So where an A has gone into administration because income wasn't secure enough, to saying adoption saves money. And when we say it's saving money, but that's all very well, but there's families out there on their knees because they're not getting support. Because there's no money to get the additional support. They're getting the ASF and that. So I've not read it clearly because there's no pop-ups, but
scratch and sniff report. Yeah, I think, is it just a case that we're I don't know, it just felt like a miss, just not reading the room. I don't know, it just feels like you, excuse me, just really not kind of like, hang on, if the arguments are solely reduced to money, then we've lost the argument. I mean, money is important.
Yeah.
Makes the world go round, but actually we've just lost the argument, haven't we? It's a bit bleak. And I was surprised because I would have thought.
I'd love to know what they.
Sorry.
Oh, bless you. Tissue.
Yeah, I've had a mince pie tonight, and it's maybe gone down the wrong way.
Oh, or it was grudged, so you've choked on it.
Yeah.
And I also wonder what made them commission this survey as well. Yeah.
Well, I think it's commissioned because I think that the CVA is representing all the voluntary adoption agencies going, whoa, hang on, they're reading the writings on the wall, isn't it? And they're reading it and they're going, in the broader context of the ASLGB, the Adoption Special Guardian Leadership Board shutting down. Actually, you could read it when you start to join all these things together. You get quite a stark picture for adoption and the future of adoption. Well, is it stark? But having been in the spotlight for so long, it feels like that we're now entering a period of where the spotlight's shining somewhere else, which is totally appropriate. Special guardianship, kinship, fostering still not on that radar. So I think it's a really interesting time.
Yeah. Maybe we should see if Sat will come on in the new year and have because he would have been involved in that, wouldn't he? Friend of the show. He always says it like it is.
He does, yeah. But I've not seen very much. I haven't seen a lot of Sat around on social media. But that also segues beautifully, Scott. You're on fire tonight. Into the announcement that I saw Adoption UK announcing Pupil Premium Plus for overseas children adopted from overseas, which I'm sure you've got an opinion about. What's a hot
I
take from
have an
Scott?
opinion on everything. Hot take. Scott's hot take. Well, I mean, I remember this has always been an issue when I worked at Adoption UK for families, and I know there's been well, we've had quite a few guests on actually who've adopted from overseas,
Yeah.
and it is a big problem for them because they've not been able to access support, additional support, should I say, in school because it's just not been available to them. And I always used to wonder who made up this silly rule that actually, children who were adopted from overseas shouldn't get it. Why shouldn't they get it? If they're British citizens in British schools. Oh, I sound like some,
Oh,
I don't know, some ranty, GB News presenter there. But let's not go there. But yeah,
Scott's
it just struck me.
right-wing hot takes.
Yeah. I don't know the difference between left wing and right wing, but yeah, it struck me as just afterly. If a child is living and is domiciled in the UK, and they go to school here, then why shouldn't they be covered by that? I don't know who made up that rule.
Well, is it not that someone's made a rule that they can't have it? Is it that the rule is you get access to pupil premium plus if you're a previously looked after child, and if you're adopted from another country, you're not a previously looked after child? It's one of those just bureaucratic nonsenses. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But to my mind, it's a easy win, isn't it? Because we're not taught how many children are adopted internationally a year in the UK. I have no idea. Hazard a guess. 100?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't even think it's that. In my head, I want to say 40. I reckon it'll be because there'll be people doing it privately, but then there'll be people who'll be doing it through the IAC Sat Winders lot. Can I say that? Is that appropriate way to describe them as Sat Winders lot?
Can't say that.
Sat Winders gang.
Where is this podcast going?
I don't know. Sat Winders, I don't know. Team. I don't know. Anyway. I'm sure it's small numbers. So 40 children a year under 18. So if we're talking 1,000 children, it's nothing, is it? It's not in the grand schemes of the political crisis we're having. 1,000 children getting pupil premium plus is hardly a disaster. Are you Googling how many children are adopted internationally?
To, yeah. I just feel like we should know how many. God, why? Where's Sat when you need him?
Well, on that bombshell, I'm sure it's in the DFE statistics because I'm sure it is. In their November release, is it November October release? Anyway, cool. So we've rattled through some topics. I've got lots more topics. One thing I would really like to reflect on is the Helen Hayes. Well, actually, shall we? So maybe talking about all this technical stuff, the closure of the Adoption Special Guardian Leadership Board, and that does all the kind of the policy stuff. That's kind of
let's do that.
Any further thoughts? Because I've been pondering this, and also how does that impact on the Adopter Reference Group, which is continuing? What are your thoughts on that? Because you're part of the Adopter Reference Group. You swish you.
Yes, so are you.
Yeah,
I mean, well, so. Well, that's very true. You wouldn't have been on that if it wasn't for me.
That's not true. I was on it.
That is.
How very dare you?
Because I renewed your membership back in the day.
You've waited till now to tell me.
Yeah. No, I didn't. I never had that power. Jeepers creepers, could you imagine? You'd all been gone. It would have just been me. I am the Adopter Reference Group. Yeah. I mean, back in the day, it was Adoption Support User Group, and we kind of, we were founding members of that group. Ed Timpson came along to say hello. We were all outed on the DFE website and on social media. You know. But back then it was the DFE's group. It wasn't anything to do with the ASGLB or the ALB as it was called then. We were absolutely, completely independent and engaged directly with the DFE. and CVA did all the secretariat for it, but it was completely different to how it looked now. And I'm hoping in some ways, actually we had an impact at that stage. I think we had sod all impact with the ASGLB in the last couple of years. It's actually just been a waste of time.
Oh, that was a hot take, Scott. That was certainly a hot take. Why do you say that it was a waste of time?
Because I don't feel that anything we said had anything done about it, personally. I mean, you used to go as a representative to the ASGLB. I mean, were we ever mentioned? Was ARG and all the other reference groups, were they ever mentioned? I mean, I guess it must have been mentioned, but, was I had this vision of it being, well, the ARG said this, and this reference group said that, and this is what we think, and this is how it should be. No. So
not even slightly. I did go to the Adoption Special Guardian Leadership Board. I went as like the ARG rep. So this all gets very technical. People probably lost the will to live listening to this. But the vision was that through Adopt a Voice and other routes, people would come together and there would be a view or topics raised by the adopter reference group that would then be fed into the Adoption Special Guardian Leadership Board. But the reality was it was a board with 28 people on. The representing adoption, special guardians, kinship. And so there was lots and lots of people there. So actually, a lot of those groups didn't have another place to speak. And so you've kind of went, actually, or is it right for me? So Adoption UK had a seat on the table. And so you go, well, are we just doubling up? Are we just reproducing what other people are doing? So like you, I think that if I'm being totally frank, I think that the status of the Adoption Leadership Board, so starting with Martin Neri in 2014, would that be? He was
probably.
Yeah, about that time. He was clearly the adoption czar, and he raised the profile of adoption. Andrew Christie pushed it through. And if I'm being absolutely honest, Krish Kandaya felt like a bigger head, not much more.
Yeah.
And we had our private conversations with him. We had our podcast with him. An interesting guy. But I don't think I think he was sold a dud as well, if I'm being honest. Possible task. I dodged that bullet. I didn't. The bullet was never even fired at me. It wasn't even fired at me. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it was when he let you down gently and said, "No, we will not be accepting your application to be the chair of the."
But McDonald's are taking on down the road from the edges. So, I think that it's an opportunity to, like you said, reset that in relationship with the DFE, because now that all the groups have been moved into so this gets really technical and boring if people are listening. So a lot of these subgroups have all been moved into our regional adoption agency leadership kind of structure.
Yeah, under Sarah Joel's kind of remit.
And absolutely, safe set of hands. My worry is that the next person, do they pick it up? Sarah won't do it forever. So actually, and then if you're at the Department for Education and you want to find anything out, you've got to go to Sarah Jahal, who's got to then get a group, who've got to then come to her, and I think that actually the adopt reference group might be beneficial to just so the DFE can say, hey, we were thinking about this. What do you think? Yeah. And as long as we don't speak out of turn or across the regional adoption agencies, then I would imagine it'd be fine.
Yeah.
You look pained.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just... No, I was just going to say, it's not just ARG, though, is it? It's the Special Guardians Reference Group, and there's a number of other ones as well. It's not just us. But I think that by the time it gets to us, if they get it wrong, then they've really, they've kind of... Yeah, they've really not done their work properly, and I can't see that happening because there's so many advisors for these agencies. A lot of the people that work there, even in the DFE, a lot of people, or a number of people who work there, are doctors as well. Special guardians are probably quite common as well. So by the time it gets to us, but I think that we always struggled to get away from, and this, I guess this is one thing we haven't really spent much time talking about over the last 2 and a bit years, is always the education thing. And I don't think it's something that will ever resolve itself as quickly, because all the time that I've been involved in these groups, education has always been the main topic. But it also got to the point that I was actually fed up of talking about it, because it was brick wall stuff, head on brick wall stuff, trying to get them to change policy. Now they've done a few bits, of course they did. You know, they brought in a little bit extra funding with the census for adopted children in schools and stuff like that, and you know that was
virtual school stuff.
Yeah, virtual school stuff. Yes. So they've done a bit. There's a lot more to do, but I guess for me, what I think the ARG needs to be is us saying this is a priority. You know, not us being asked, is this a priority? It's up to us to say this is a priority, and I guess trying to push through different changes. And the whole point of engaging with more than just adopted voice is to also get different views. So you use your networks, I use mine. We also use a podcast as a kind of a sounding board or a voice as well, because we have maybe a different kind of type of adopter, shall we say, to that of adopted voice or Adoption UK or whoever. So I think that is a very important thing. I never realized how important making sure that you've got independence on those groups as well was. I didn't realize how important that was until, I kind of stood back from my previous role at Adoption UK and thought, actually, there's only so much that one organization can do in terms of, collating. And when I say collating, I'm talking about the reporting of that, because, similarly to anything, you read it how you read it. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's what everybody thinks. We might hear from 100 people that say completely different. And it might be 50 people that have said what they've said through adopted voice, and that is deemed as the voice. Do you know what I mean? So it's really important that we have the level of independence that we have, and long may it continue. To be honest.
Oh, that's a really interesting, and I think that's always been my view, is that because Adoption UK has got because it's a political organisation. It is political. Is it political? Yeah, it is. I guess it is. It's always limited in what it can say. But it's because it's a big charity. It's it's got to be considered in what it says, or it should be considered, because it's got so it's weighing up all the needs of all the different people and all of that kind of stuff. But you've got other groups like Potato Group. You've got the Special Guardian Adopters together. I laughed there because I couldn't remember what the letters were. So you've got different groups of people. You've got individual. You've got people like We Are Family in London. You've got you've got the Laughs in Leicestershire. The is it I can't remember I don't know what Laugh stands for. It's someone fax me a memo.
Leicestershire Adoption Fostering something, I think. I can't remember, but
So you've got all these little quarters. You've got lots of little groups, and they're all really interesting. And I think, which sort of links into, I was thinking about this year in general. One of the things that's really stuck in my head was the conversation we had with John Radu. And he said, sort of in the middle of all the things he said, one of the things that really stuck with me was this idea that, because we were reflecting on the kind of the tensions between all the different voices of care experienced people. And he said that the danger is that we think that other people should feel like we do, or that we know how other people feel. I'm maybe paraphrasing him there, but I think that is just as true in any walk of life. But in adoption, I think that I look into other people's experience of adoption and I go, I can't believe you don't see it the same way as me. Or you don't, and I think that's the danger, isn't it? And that's where the adopter reference group has got to be a broad church. It's got to have, it's got to have reflect solo adopters, which I'm changing. I'm changing my language because I've decided I don't want to call them single adopters anymore, because what they do with their nethers is no one's business. They're solo adopters, aren't they? Well, I think it's their relationship status is irrelevant. They're adopting as a solo person, so whether they're single. Is kind of reflection with single partnered, all of that. People single by choice, so solo adopters, solo carers. So see, I can learn CPD, sign myself up. And And it just made, I just see that again and again. Now, John Radu's highlighted that. I see that in all of the interactions between all of these different kind of people and their experience, and go, yeah, we all just want to kind of sort of, you should think like I think. Anyway, we're rattling through. We've got lots of stuff. Helen Hayes, because we didn't reflect on Helen Hayes, and it was a fun morning, wasn't it? Speaking to Helen Hayes, the Shadow Minister for Children and Early Years. Did you think?
Yeah.
What were you expecting?
I did. Well, what I was expecting a female version of Will Quince from the Labour Party.
Hello.
And what I think we got was somebody who was very cautious, to begin, like more cautious than Will Quince was.
More cautious.
But actually, I mean, I had some, little pokes about the Labour Party, about bleeding Labour Party, and all that sort of stuff. But actually, she took it in great fun, as in some of the jibs. But also, she had some really great responses to our questions, I thought. Now, as we know, and she said it, she was honest, she can't say that this is going to happen, that's going to happen if Labour win the next election. But it says to me that, they're gathering data, they're working through their priorities, and I'm actually seeing this more and more at the minute as well, that people went through that stage when Labour were in power, of wanting them out because they were, doing damage and, blah, 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 blah. And then the Tories come in and everything was fabulous for a couple of years. And we're now gotten to that stage where everybody's forgotten that Labour were crap when they were in power. And when I say crap, I mean towards the end of their term. I forgot where I was going with that. But basically that's what I'm reading that more and more on socials as well. But for them, they are doing job that they can do at the minute, and gathering the priorities of stuff. And children were well looked after. That's what I was going to say. So children were well looked after, in terms of the last Labour government, and adoption was as well. I'd like to think that the whole of adoption and special guardians and and fostering would be kind of more of a priority. But at the end of the day, they're going to be taking on quite a big task to sort out. Quite a crisis, let's be honest. But you only have to look at the Rwanda ruling. Was it yesterday or the other day?
Yeah.
You've got MPs, you've got Conservative MPs coming out going, I'm really pleased to see that this ruling has been made. They have totally lost touch. So, if the Labour Party do get in, then they've got such a horrendous job to take on. And I wonder how quickly we'll see anything move within the children's arena, because they've got so much to sort out first. So,
Yeah, I totally agree with everything there, really. And I think the only thing I would add to it is that I thought that she had a good measure of the brief. I'm always nervous. I always kind of think, hey, let's talk to this person. Then about sort of 3 weeks before I go, why did you do that? Bloody idiot. Because I always kind of think, what I don't want to do is I don't want to embarrass people, because we can go, because they're overviewing all of children, and we can talk about the minutiae of our specific subject, which is unfair on them. But I don't want to embarrass them, but neither do I want to give them an easy ride. But I think she knew her brief. She was quite cautious, but I think I totally get why. And she seemed genuine, sort of acknowledging the challenges.
I wouldn't say she comes from a completely working class background, but she comes from as close as you can, as close as we probably would have gotten back there. Well, no, not close, actually. Nowhere near close. I'd say she's probably middle class background. But she just, her mum did her education again when she did. So, they've obviously had their own adversity, and
normal.
I don't know. Yeah, it seemed that way. Yeah.
And there was some good stuff she said around, the inquiry into human rights in relation to adoption, apology, and all that stuff. So, and that was picked up well. I think people are encouraged by that. I mean,
yeah.
But I mean, Labour will be getting my vote, but you know where I live. They could put a donkey in, and Labour will get voted in. And I've got some stories about that as well. But that's fine, and I think that's perfectly fine. Well, as we've talked about a lot of very serious things today, Scott, I had my Scott. I can't tell you the
what?
giddy joy I skipped to my last nativity last night.
Well, you say that. You say
Okay.
your last nativity, because I'm just thinking there.
What?
Because obviously we've always got a little list, haven't we, of things that we might talk about. And I was thinking when I saw the nativity thing, I was thinking, but what about the grandchildren?
I'm not going. Just not going. That's terrible, isn't it?
Granddad, are you coming to my nativity? Nope, not going. Nope. Done 20 years of this rubbish, listening there, smiling, watching somebody going dressed up as a jellyfish on stage and singing Little Donkey. I'm not doing it anymore.
I'm
Is
a
that
bad
it?
man. That is
You are, aren't you?
no.
You
Well,
really.
they've got their own parents, and tickets are a premium.
Oh,
Is that a
but
fair
what if one
stance?
what if one of them came up and said, "Granddad,
Look,
you're my favorite. I hate my parents. I love you more. Please, 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 Granddad, please.
listen, I'm not going. I'm not. I
I'm begging."
really look. 23 years. My children have been at some form or other in this. Well, you know the whole thing about 23 years. So I've been going to the same school for 23 years.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to dismiss my. And so most of my kids are not particularly ever done anything in nativity because they don't want to. That's fine. Apart from one that was a wibbly wobbly jelly, infamously, like the nativity, that cornerstone of the nativity story, jelly. And we all know the song and we remembered it. We all had to learn it together. And Shania was there last night, and kids forgot their lines. The lights didn't work. Teacher forgot to press the button. There's a bit of rowdiness. There's a bit of questionable parenting of the baby Jesus.
Your social worker hat went on then, didn't it?
I was like, hang on.
Is that a doll? Is it plastic, that doll? Yeah, it is. All right. Well, okay, we're all good. But I'll be keeping an eye on you in 10 years.
Yeah, when they dropped it, it bounced like plastic anyway. So it was just, I mean, it was what it was. But I just thought, I just feel, I don't want to be, I'm trying to keep on my persona that I'm like a hip kind of down with the kids guy.
Yeah.
But I'm just a curmudgeonly old kid. There you are. I am, yeah.
So when you say like nativity, because I mean, I've done that bit of parenting as well. I only had half the children you had, so it lasted a lot less time. Plus, they were a lot older. I mean, does that include Christmas concerts and things like that? I mean, are you know?
Well, aren't they one and the same? I mean, some of them have been.
No, I mean the primary school that my kids went to. Yeah, there's the primary school that my kids went to used to do the Christmas carols. The day that they broke up. Yeah, so that would be the Christmas concert thing, and you'd also have the Christmas play. Now, all of my kids have taken part in the Christmas plays, or as you've called them, nativities, but they weren't really nativities, so it could be, I don't know. I don't know what these things are, but yeah, pretty much, or a chimney sweep. The second chimney sweep. Yeah, that was what one of them did. Bless him. They had to make up a part for him.
Number 2.
Yeah, he was chimney sweep number 2. And they even gave him a name and something. But so there's always been that double thing. And then it was Christmas carol. I'm not being funny. Christmas carols for me are just like the biggest waste of time. Not because I don't enjoy them. I'm grateful. I think that nobody listens to this podcast because I'm making myself a drum. But the primary school I went to was quite big on music, and they used to have a school band, and so yeah, some years were better than others, shall we say? And yeah, but roll forward, because last night I went to my first ever Irish Christmas concert for school. Now, I mean, we've lived here for 4 years, nearly 5 years. Yeah, 4 years. The first one he didn't take part in because he'd only just joined the school, so he wasn't really sure how it all worked. And then obviously COVID. So,
Yeah.
um,
I'm intrigued. Having met your son on several occasions, he is showbiz.
yeah, he's jazz
He
hands.
is showbiz, jazz hands.
Yeah, I mean,
dance that boy.
He does his summer drama camp, which is a week long every summer, and he does loads of other things. But this has been. He didn't actually tell us it was on. We saw it on Facebook, on the school's Facebook page on Friday. Like,
it's not like
have we got tickets for that? Yeah, I know. That's what I'm thinking as well. So anyway, maybe he just didn't want us there. In fact, I know he didn't. As long as he would have given him a lift. But it was my first one, and I have to say I can't believe I've missed them because they are absolutely amazing over here. It was in the local theatre. The theatre gave up the theatre for the evening. Yeah. Proper stage, mics. The mics would have driven you potty because all we heard when they were singing was because they had them right up to their faces. But sorry, listeners, if that's gone through you like chalk on the board. But the traditional Irish Christmas music was played. There was Irish dancing.
What is traditional Irish Christmas music?
Trad music, so it's like
violins,
the fiddle, the banjo, and all that sort of stuff. It was absolutely loved it. Can't wait till next year. Honestly, I just need to remember and take cash for the raffle tickets because it's some amazing prizes that I didn't get.
Not contactless.
I'm a tapper. Yeah, I know. Well, or I'll give them the old PayPal machine that I've got upstairs. But I'm like you with some of it. And especially during the day when I should be working, I feel bad. But, honestly, let's just hope none of your... Well, you've only got one left, haven't you? Let's hope she doesn't get into the choir and then you have to go to the Christmas concert.
She's not wired like that. She's not interested. No. Bless her. She wanted to do actually, which is... she did want to do the lights and she really enjoys it. She's quite that way inclined. But she gave it up for a boy who cried because he wouldn't.
Oh dear. Okay.
Well, yeah. So I was proud, but also said that she shouldn't put up with boys crying.
Yeah.
Which that sounded terrible.
No,
I mean,
that's
in the sense
wrong.
that she shouldn't be manipulated.
Yeah. That's probably a better way to say it. Yes.
That's because
because boys shouldn't cry.
Well, boys shouldn't cry. I mean, no, but you know what I mean. No, if boys are crying because you've won the game and you're a girl, then I think I had 5 daughters. We've had a lot of upset boys because they've beaten them by my girls. They're very good at beating boys, not physically, and physically, yes.
Yeah. But also verbally and
Oh, especially the footballing one, which is a terrible way to refer to a child. The amount of times little boys would get really upset because she would score goals, 3 goals past them, and then they couldn't score a goal against her, and then they would then throw themselves to the floor or assault her, and she would then subdue them with vigor.
I mean, you know that I know that all of your children, and yes, she scares grown men. Does football one, so love her to bits, but
driving test this week, bless her. So we're really excited about that. Fabulous.
Step towards independence.
Yeah, she'll be roaming the streets. That's exciting. Bless her heart. Really excited. Anything else going on in Cass and Rennie Towers? You've been away. You went away, you slinky dog. Yeah.
Yes, had a little sneaky trip. Ooh, little sneaky trip.
Yes, slinky dog.
I know. Well,
was it warm?
Yeah, well, it was warmer than it was here. I can assure you. I actually got to the point where I thought, if I don't do something about this, I'm actually going to be ill.
You're going to slip into a hypothermic coma.
Yeah, or I got a chest infection or something. And to be honest, it's the last thing I could need. Yeah,
not at your age.
No, and not in my condition either. Oof, all that coughing and heaving, and that doesn't do my head any good. Yeah, exactly. So I took it upon myself to book a flight to Spain. I should do.
We're going to have to talk about your greenhouse emissions, aren't we?
Please don't. No, we mustn't.
That's a dark podcast.
I rowed a boat. All right, I blew up a dinghy and I rowed to Spain.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I went and visited the in-laws for a few days who were on holiday there. And their little faces, bless them, because they were coming to the end of quite a long 2 weeks. The weather hadn't been great for them. So they hadn't been about doing as much as they would have liked. So I turned up, all jazz hands.
Them over the edge.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. They were on the balcony and I just, give them a shove. Hopefully the will will be read next week. No, they were just delighted to have a little bit of company and yeah, it was good fun. So
hospitality, Scott.
Yeah,
excellent.
Yeah,
cool. Well, that has been a fantastic run through. This is Christmas Eve. People might be listening to it now. They'll be peeling their potatoes and roasting their Brussels sprouts or whatever people do, or hiding in the cupboard away from the rest of their family, which is probably more likely, which is where I will be.
Or more likely screaming at their child to go to bed and go to sleep.
Yeah, I've got to look forward over Christmas. I am going to write a parenting course for a local authority.
Joyous.
And that is what happens.
Such a rock and roll life.
Well,
you really do.
Yeah, it's mildly terrifying, the thought of writing a parenting course, but also a great opportunity. And that's what happens when you become friends with Wendy Thorley.
Yeah, well, you know what to do though, because I've heard, in all my years of parenting, just get a copy of the Webster Stratton online, right, and then do Command F, and type in Webster Stratton, right. Find all the Webster Stratton and replace it with Al Coates. Job's done.
Command F. I'm going to do that now. Oh, nothing.
If you do Command F in a PDF, that'll find it.
Oh, well, that's my Christmas afternoon.
I just think, isn't it? Well, I mean, because me, I like to find easier ways of doing things.
Yeah.
Yours won't be any different to Webster Stratton.
And have you asked? And on another, it's true. Have you asked for anything nice from Santa Claus? Are you getting anything nice?
I don't know, to be honest. I never ask for anything because it's very normal. I never get what I ask for anyway, so there's just no point. Tris was away. He's brought back some stuff that I'm not allowed to look at. So I'm hopeful that, my near-death experience might have spurred him on to buy some nice things for me this year, just to say that I appreciate you're still here, my darling.
Yes.
I think the chances are fairly slim, but
I wouldn't hold your breath. No. What I've realized is that actually what makes me really happy is some really modest things. So I've got this WhatsApp group that I developed and put all my children into it and said, this is a list of things I want. So it's socks from Screwfix, obviously Vosine shampoo, and Commando socks, and Beck's Blue beer, which is an alcoholic beer. And I changed the name at Christmas to Christmas, and then a birthday to birthday.
All right. But I guess what you have to make sure is that they're all speaking separately, so you don't just get like Screwfix socks from all of the children.
That will be fine.
Really?
Because that genuinely makes me happy. Because then it's what I can't bear is those knickknacks that kids buy you that said like "best dad in the world" bottle opener.
Yeah, because like 2 days later, you're certainly not the best dad in the world.
They're beating you to death with it.
Exactly.
That's not true. I shouldn't say that because my 11-year-old is wonderful. She just loves me a bit. And anyway, that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to go and see her and have some fun with them. She got into Lego, so that's what I'm doing. Yeah, like a normal child. It's it's wonderful. Bless her.
Bit of a worry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Mr. Coates, have a lovely Christmas.
And you. Yeah, nonny. But we're sailing. You'd be sailing this afternoon on Christmas afternoon.
Sailing?
We're sailing.
Oh, whatever. And we'll be back next week with another episode.
Yeah, I'm going to release a few. I'm going to release like the top 3 episodes, re-release them, and then on the day of we'll release the best episode of 27. Not the best episode, the most listened to. There's a difference.
Yeah, there is a difference. Yeah.
And when you get to that one, you'll know why.
Really?
Well, you know why, because I think you know what it is. Anyway, on that note, as always, Bon Jovi.
Christmas anchovies.
Excellent. Where's that button?